So we've had time to look at what's going on with this number system and thinking about what's the same and what's different about this one and our normal base 10. At this point, if you're leading this as a staff meeting, then obviously get responses from the teachers in front of you. But let's just go through some of the things you might have noticed. So firstly, we've got this repeating pattern. So we've got 0 to 5 going on here, then 0 to 5 again, then again. And that pattern will keep repeating. So obviously in our number system we get taught 0 to 9, 0 to 9, 0 to 9 repeated all the time. It always fascinates me when I work with a year 1 child, say, and they get to 54 and stop because they don't know what comes next. It's amazing if they've gone all the way up to 54 by memory and they haven't actually clocked that repeating pattern. So this stop and look, what do you notice? So important. So that what it does 1, 2, 3 every time, 1, 2, 3, we get that repeating pattern again and again and again. But also as part of that repeating pattern, we've got that going on in this column as well, look. We've got all 1s, then we've got 2s, then we'll get 3s, and so on and so forth. So that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern repeats in the next column as well. And obviously if we kept going, we'd get the same in every column. The repeat happens 6 times slower here. So we've got it changing every number here. We get 6 with a 1, then we get 6 with a 2, then we get 6 numbers with a 3, and so on and so forth. So what else is there to notice? Well, I'm sure some of you will have noticed that the significance of the 5 is absolutely crucial. So whenever I get a 5 in this column, what happens next? Oh look, there's our new bundle of 6, and here's the fact that we've got 0 in this column, and that is a repeating element of this number system. And then that's so important to realise then what happens when I get that happening in both columns. We get a double knock on. So if I can secure this idea of what happens when my column is full, when in year 4 we move on to our place value of decimals, I know what happens after 0.99. Because I really understand this idea of once a column is full, the knock-on effect to other columns. What else do we notice? Well, we've got the same digits being used, but they're worth very different things. So this 1 here actually is representing just 1 straw. I've used the same digit here, but because it's in a different column, it now represents a different number of straws. And this one here, well, we know that that's a whole different ball game because 6 of these make that one there. So the digit looks the same, but because of its place, because of the column it's in, what it actually represents is very different. And as part of that then, we've also got the significance of this 0. Yeah, we talk about it, don't we, as a placeholder. But it's still really important that we investigate that regularly. I still work with lots of year 4 children who aren't absolutely secure about their zeros when they're dealing with 4-digit numbers. So we need to hit that one quite hard. The last thing I want to mention then is the value of the columns. So this column here is our 1s column. Do you remember our little red person was collecting just single straws? Then this column here, each one in there is worth 6 times as much, isn't it? So these are worth 6s in this column here, because 6 of these 1s made 1 of those. 6 single straws made our 1 bundle. And then this column here was worth 6 times more again, because 6 of these made our box. So if we were looking the other way, this column here, anything is a 6th of that column. And this column is worth a 6th of that column. So when we're thinking about our number system, it's important we realise this carries on. That as I move to my columns to the left, my numbers are getting 10 times bigger. So a 1 in this column is worth 10 times more than a 1 in that column when I'm thinking about our number system. So having got to grips with that, we need to practice it in lots of different ways. And it's really good to link our maths to a context. There's a gorgeous book that you may or may not know called The Tin Forest by Helen Ward. And there's a really lovely bit in it where there's an old man and he collects junk. Okay, so he's got this dream about having a really nice place to live in, and he reads about a forest, but he lives in a rather miserable place sorting rubbish. Well, here we've got a picture of him with one piece of rubbish, one bit of junk. And then we've got a picture of him with a bag. Well, if we said that every time he got 10 bits of junk, he put them in a bag, we've got a practical vision of place value. And oh look, here he is with a wheelbarrow. Well, if we had 10 bags of junk in a wheelbarrow, we'd be into our 3-digit numbers. So we could then play a game with the children using this as our trigger and as our starting point. So we've got our columns here with our 1s for our single bits of junk, our 10s here for our bags of junk. So I can collect junk and put it in my columns to really deepen my understanding of place value and what it really means.